Hello, it is the Love Your Vibe podcast. Here we are, season 3, episode 3. I'm Eleanor Hayward. I'm here with,
Jennifer Hawkins.
and we are thrilled to share with you today some lovely, juicy tidbits about the power of community, healing in community, and how trust is pivotal for transformation. Jennifer, tell me about how you feel about trust and feeling safe in community and how that's been of service to your healing journey.
Well, like most of this journey, there's layers. There's layers to this. But for me, for sure, finding a space where when I shared a traumatic story, that it was received and not in the energy of fixing the problem, the problem or the issue,
Hmm. Hmm.
or telling me what I should have or could have done differently. Because the point is moot, you know? But to really, I think from my own felt sense, healing trauma is really being validated and witnessed. That it's in the
Hmm.
recognition and this and the energy of the other person holding you in, for a lot of us, when we start talking about our stories from a place where it's kind of like, I can't deal with this anymore. I need support. I need help. If you're coming from that energy, when someone just says, wow, that must have been really hard. I can't imagine what that was like. Just that validation alone is enough to, you could feel the energy just kind of dissipate. It's like, okay, I don't have to go into, there's no fixing here. There's no energy of that I'm somehow bad or I did it wrong. Um, these maladaptations form to protect us and get us through life. And of course, in a perfect heaven on earth world, we would have those connections that would bring us back to wholeness. But that doesn't happen for a lot of us. I think a big awakening for me was, moving around a lot as a child. I always had community. I always had people around me. But
Hmm.
I realized that I was so used to being a chameleon in those communities. I'd moved somewhere new and it was more of a, who do I have to be for you to like me or love me? So I
Hmm.
could never really fully be myself unless I was by myself in my family, like in my home. I could go to my room and I could just feel free to think and feel and behave and dance and be whatever it was, but on my own though.
Hmm.
I also edited myself. So this journey of healing for me, when I found Love Your Vibe transformation being one of them, I've been in several different communities, but it's the energy that comes with it. It's the energy of trust where you know that what is being said is not going to leave that space. So
Hmm.
for a lot of my relationships, when I was going through issues, I would share something, and inside I had a belief running that this is going to be thrown back in your face at some point. It's going to come
Hmm.
back around and, oh, do you remember that? It was going to create shame, mistrust, um, anger, embarrassment. So we kind of get stuck in these cycles, I think, sometimes. So when I found my first community, for example, here in Love Your Vibe Transformation, where, like, I would say I've been in a lot of different communities. This has been the longest standing community. And I think
Hmm.
that's something that just came to me fairly recently. I've had a lot of different communities. I met so many beautiful, amazing humans, but nothing that has stood the test of time. And
Hmm.
I think that is what's really transformative here, um, that we get to relish in the growing community. It's a growing community that we're a part of, and a lot of longstanding members, so that this anchor of safety grows as we grow. Because we've created
Hmm.
that, we've brought in people and they know how to become safer humans because they're always doing their inner work. So that, for me, I think there's a distinction there for me. Like community, of course, we're designed to be around other humans. That's what the human race is about. We are meant to interact and work together in our lives. Um, but for me, I think that the outstanding thing for me with Love Your Life transformation is that long standing. Like it's like a community, and the majority of the time we're in the ethers, we're on Zoom because we live in a lot of different places. But when we do get together, there's this immediate sense of safety and trust and love within our community that kind of is the first presentation, I guess, as we get together in circles. So I would love to know why you believe safety is essential for the healing or transformation process. Could you speak to that?
And safety has been such a very interesting concept to even understand in my body because I know, living here in the greater Toronto Hamilton area of Ontario, Canada, we live in one of the safer societies in the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think I'm lucky and I know this is changing, but I've never seen anybody pull a gun on anybody else, as an example. So I feel like on some cognitive level, I know that I live in a safe place, but on an emotional level, I remember growing up and feeling like whenever I spoke my truth, I felt like I had a target on my back. So I felt like I couldn't be entirely truthful and authentic because I felt like I was being threatened. And it was only with doing the inner work that I really realized I didn't trust other people, but ultimately I didn't trust myself.
That's a big aha.
And learning to trust myself, it's like, well, what does that mean even? But I do know the more that I trust myself, the more that I give the benefit of the doubt to other people and trust other people. But I also recognize something like trust isn't something that you just hand out all at once. It's something that's earned in measures. And yet there's a sense around some people you can trust them with your deep, dark secrets. I feel like that's a story I hear from people who identify as empathic or highly sensitive that they're like, strangers just come up and tell me their secrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like they feel like ultimately there's that safety of being able to tell your truth without being judged. I feel like that's one big
Yeah.
element that people aren't going to give you a weird look. Because even if somebody, like, so very little of our communication is actually verbal, more of
Yes.
it, more of it is tone, and even more of it is body language.
Yeah.
So even if somebody just kind of gives you a weird look, you're like, okay, I'm not accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been really powerful to me to be in a community where Elvira, our founder, our amazing inspirational founder who envisioned the Love Your Vibe transformation, her slogan or her what the way we deliver the Love Your Vibe transformation is where everybody is safer, seen, celebrated, and supported. And with one of our teachings and tools, the 4 circles of personal power, it's a way of envisioning boundaries. And at the center of the circle, there's us and the star, right? It's only later that we look, it's like, oh, I'm the star at the middle. Okay. And it's like, okay, but I have to feel safer, seen, celebrated, and supported in my own skin first. And I was like, oh, well, do I feel safe in my own skin? And it was only with that inner work that I'm learning what that actually feels like.
Yeah.
Seen, like that I actually witness myself, that I don't judge myself. Because the
Mhm.
more, like, I know if I judge myself, I'm more likely to judge other people as well. That projection effect is fascinating to me. Celebrated, like to actually hold space and not feel like other people are competing, that we have to like take a little chip out of people, that's how women have been conditioned through the centuries, that we've been competing against each other for resources. And to actually genuinely celebrate other women is something that I feel has only really been shifting the past 5 or 10 years, that we can hold space for women to grow and supported, and to really, like you said, to just witness people and offer, whether it's verbal, emotional, just space and time,
Yeah.
and whether, resources as well, whatever people need. So that has been just pivotal. So the safer, seen, celebrated, and supported, ethos has been really pivotal to as we grow this.
Yeah.
And I want to come back to the Jedi philosophy that we have, the justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and what does safer mean in community? Why do we use safer versus safe? And do you have any input on that?
Well, my idea of safety and your idea of safety is going to invariably be different because we've had very different life experiences.
Okay, yes.
Um, Everybody experiences events in their lives. You and I could be in a car accident together, and I walk away unfazed, and you have PTSD,
Hmm.
but we are in the same car. So our
Hmm.
nervous systems are wired differently.
Yes,
So our
excellent.
response, so our what an individual needs in regards to safety, we can't filter through just our perception. So I
Hmm.
think that the safer and the seen part is allowing people the space to share um, times in their life or experiences in their life that have had a deep, deep effect on how they show up in their life.
Yes.
When we're talking about racism, we're talking about prejudice, we're talking about biases. Like there's these undercurrent, and of course, you and I both being middle class, cisgendered white women, we have a very different life experience to um, a Hispanic woman or a Black woman, even of the same age or the same class, right?
Hmm.
We have white skin. So in that, we have privilege. And so for us, the safer was let's be realistic. You
Hmm.
know, what is safer to a Kosua, to Erica, to Julie, to Debbie? It's going to be different.
Hmm.
And it's having courageous conversations when we come together in circle where we can share these parts of us that we've hidden away because it's too uncomfortable for the majority. We
Hmm.
want this place to be a place where, we'd love it to eventually be the majority, but where the minority could come together and support one another, heal those wounds, and learn so we can learn how to be better spokespeople, so we can learn how to be better communicators, so we can learn how to step in when we see like situations that are not right. The words are escaping me, but when we see
Hmm.
injustice, that we
Hmm.
that we speak up for that. We've had several conversations. I grew up in a very, very white Anglo-Saxon, in the military. I didn't see a brown person till I was, I think, in high school.
Hmm.
So how could I ever understand other than what I could hear through stories? I mean, and those were stories, right? There were stories. So being in a place where um, that I've done enough healing in myself that I'm not going to go into a defensive. If a person of color comes to me and says, I'm having this experience, that I can say, wow, and if I'm a part of that, please, how do I repair this? And how do I do better moving forward? So that's really, I think, the underlying thing is when we came through doing Jedi, understanding trauma, that the safer seemed like a more collective truth than saying that it was safe, because everybody's definition of safe is different.
Hmm.
And really, like the emotional safety is going to look and feel like differently for different people. Like for me, it was having the ability to express myself without fear of ridicule or judgment,
Hmm.
without rejection, without
Hmm.
being told that my belief system is bad and wrong. And what I love that has been brought in through our community is bringing in that level of curiosity. If you've never heard that side of the story or that part of someone's truth, just be like, wow, where did you develop, where did you learn that? Could you tell me about that experience? And as soon as you
Hmm.
invite in curiosity, now that's a very different, now you are actually creating a reciprocal energetic loop. So now people, it's like, oh, they're not turning away. They're actually leaning in and wanting more information.
Hmm.
That's safer. And all of our, I know I'm talking a lot, but all of our trauma is relational,
Mm.
mostly.
Mostly.
It's being harmed or been in harmful situations with other humans, devoid of their cognition or not, but it usually is an interaction with another person that we're having an experience that is feeling very hurtful. And most of us, a lot of women, the wall goes up. So I love that you brought up boundaries. The wall goes up, and that's the protection. But that's the ego
Hmm.
saying, that's it. We don't trust anybody. The world isn't safe. I'm not safe in the world. And
Hmm.
that's kind of where I was. Like, and you're kind of navigating between this. I'm not safe in the world, but I want to be loved. So it's like this tug of war, right? Tug of war. And we don't, this is the beautiful thing. I mean, the coat of many colors that the rainbow has, there's all the colors, but there's all the colors in between, the fractors in between the red and the orange and the yellow. I mean, it's not just those colors. There's so much diversity. Shades of gray. It's not black and white. As soon as we can bring in community and learn other people's stories, but then from that place of compassion to nurture courageous conversation, where if something is being activated inside of you because of something somebody's saying, that's the invitation to be more introspective.
Mm.
So there's just, I mean, this conversation is so like it's so large. Like, you know, having the safety in community. I mean, I agree with you. We are pretty safe here in Canada. Um, I I watch the news and I see what's happening in Palestine and I think, oh my God, like how can, am I being um like to talk about safety? Do I have any place to talk about that? Because I'm not even close to living in a country that has no semblance of that whatsoever.
Hmm.
So it's, you know, just having that curiosity and that open-heartedness to understand that safety is not the same for everybody.
Hmm. Hmm.
For somebody homeless on the street, safety might be knowing where their next meal is going to come. And to ask them to be anything, for them to dream of anything more than that is just not in their capacity.
Hmm.
So it's just really just being very mindful.
Hmm. That everybody's nervous system is at a different space.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's a common saying that goes around. It's like you don't know where people are at any given time, so be kind.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we, and I know myself historically, especially if I'm feeling stressed, whether it's money stress, time stress, if my basic needs aren't being met, my defense mechanism might come out to have a tone and be
Yeah.
sharp. And that can be really cutting to somebody's nervous system who's not done as much healing work as I had. And I
Yeah.
understand that that's my projection, not how they showed up.
Yeah.
So often I feel like when we're totally oblivious that that we like so many people feel that their discrimination, like that's what you're saying, like their bias is blind, or even if it's an explicit bias and they know that they're prejudiced and that people deserve discrimination for
Mm.
whatever reason, because a lot of discrimination might be implicit, meaning you're unaware of your bias, you're unaware of your prejudice, but you can still discriminate, which can hurt somebody, and you can be totally oblivious.
Totally oblivious. Yeah.
But whereas like there's a lot of people in the world who like discriminating, like I remember growing up and hearing like, oh, to have discriminating taste is it's a good thing,
Yeah.
to recognize like what's quality, right? Versus recognizing it's like, no, like everybody deserves humanity and dignity.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. And I often wonder, because we talk about
mhm,
words being like it spells, like spelling, right? That we create this reality. And I think I find so fascinating is you take some words like discrimination, just having discriminating taste. Where
Hmm.
actually did that come? Like where actually was the root of that word? Perhaps that's
Hmm.
what it was, but it was now turned into something that made us better,
Yes.
but really harming somebody else. So there's so many things that we don't know. We don't
Hmm.
know that we don't know.
Hmm.
And I think the beautiful thing about community, especially a diverse community and inclusive
Hmm.
community, is that we get different stories, we get different perspectives, and that's what creates that huge heart of compassion and empathy. We aren't here to fix
Hmm.
anything, but it's like, oh my gosh, I recognize that in my life. I get to choose how I'm going to show up in future, how I'm going to show up in a
Hmm.
situation if I recognize this. Um,
Hmm.
right? Being able to release the past wounds. And when someone who's experienced a wound like that, whether
Hmm.
it's race or a victimization, they've been attacked,
Bullying. Yeah.
bullying, any of those, again, see what I mean? They're relationally
Yes.
done, like they're being done by another person, right? Um, is to be able to hold that person through their pain, allowing that grief that perhaps they had to shove aside because they had to carry on. I can only speak for myself in my situation. I was raped at the age of 15, and I had to suppress all of the feelings about that and show up to school on Monday like it's okay. Like I can't even like I just actually got shivers through my whole body. I don't know how I did it. I just completely shut off emotionally. I completely shut off emotionally. So being in community with other women, sharing my story, I know has been a huge cathartic moment because so many women have shared, I've never told anybody that happened to me too. That is healing, being witnessed in that. I've recently just, I'm mentoring a group and I have 3 men in my group. I've not been able to be in circle with men since I
Hmm.
was 15 years old. Men that
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I see the healing that's happened. I can't look at a man and say they're bad because they're not all bad,
No.
you know? But that defense goes up. Men aren't safe. Do not trust them.
Hmm.
And so I've walked through my life, having this belief that men are bad and scary and I have to avoid them. And amazing that I've been in situations so many times where that was true. Men
Hmm.
grabbing at me, men touching me inappropriately without invitation. So it perpetuated the belief,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which kept me in fear.
Hmm.
And when I'm in fear and I'm shrinking, their perpetrator comes out and I become the
Hmm.
prey, the predator and the prey. And that's how our nervous system functions. So now that I've been able to heal so many layers, I can now show up in an empowered, not predatorial, but in that energy of I'm not going to be taken down, right? I'm going to stand in my truth and I'm not going to allow that energy of fear to radiate outside of me. I'm going to hold my space. I'm going to take up space.
Hmm.
And I do not get picked on anymore. But I had to
Nice.
heal. I had an innate belief that men were stronger, women were weaker,
Hmm.
that men could take what they wanted.
Hmm.
So to heal that, I had to heal this. I had to start feeling safe within. And as I've healed this, I create ripples outward that affects my community. And I
Hmm.
talk as being a long-standing community because we've seen the effects of this work on community as we've grown.
Hmm. And what I can't remember you call it, like it's like I feel afraid, but I want to be loved. So there's this I don't trust, and who do I have to be
Yeah.
loved? And that created a people pleasing pattern,
Hmm.
right? And it's like you didn't trust men, but you've been married twice, right? So and what so that's a bit of a
Yeah,
paradox, right?
it
And
is.
and now you're learning how to feel safer in your own body in your own marriage. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's pretty common because we're so conditioned as women to look for the other half, that
Yeah.
we're not even told that we're whole people,
Yeah.
that we need somebody else to take care of us. Like that was something that my mother had said repeatedly when I was little, like you need to find a rich man. And
Yeah.
that was like, oh, like I was never taught you can do it by yourself,
And this is
right? I
how.
feel like it's shifting within the
Yeah.
culture, and that's one of the things that I mean, our culture is so toxic, and yet one of the fascinating things about culture is that it changes when we change, and we need to change and heal in order to shift and have that ripple effect so that we can have these deeper conversations, so that we can learn to collaborate with each other and have ideas come out without nitpicking and without being able to because when our egos come out, it's like we just try to fight, like you said, that bully energy, that power over. It's like I just, think of world politics, and it's like whoever's just looking for the upper hand, who's the bigger swinging dick, right? Versus it's like, okay, but who's really caring for people? Like empathy is key to operating in community. And yet
Yeah.
I feel like our culture has evolved that empathy is weakness, that
It was
feelings and
actually, yeah.
emotions are weakness,
Hmm.
that they're messy, they're uncomfortable. Like if you go to a funeral, say, and somebody is grieving, that sympathy is something that's offered, like, sorry, I'm sorry, right? But it's not my fault, right? But
Yeah.
it's how can I be with you? Can I hold you in your tears while you share some memories, right? That empathy, that was Brene Brown who really clarified the difference between sympathy and empathy for me. But to hold space, like that is a skill that we're cultivating in community.
Yes.
To just take a breath and listen, and we're listening to hear and understand, not listening to respond.
Yes, that's huge. That it's okay to have a breath. It's okay to have a pause. Not all silence needs to be filled. You were talking there, and if I could just, there is a quote in Resmaa Menakem's book, My Grandmother's Hands, that
Mm.
generational trauma over time becomes, it begins to look like culture.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
is it really culture, or is it trauma that has created a cycle
Yes.
that we get
Collective
stuck
trauma.
in,
Yes.
right?
On an individual
So,
level, it's personality.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
And so much of
People say,
what we
well,
just
I
take for
just am who
granted.
I am. And I'm like, and I think what I love too about community, and I'd
Mm.
love to bring this part into it too, is the beautiful thing, as facilitators, as mentors, um, through our wonderful training with Eleanor and with our trainers from the past, is helping people shift from being the victim of their story to being the protagonist of their story, to be the hero of their story.
The star.
So inviting in, yeah, being the star. So inviting in this, yes, this happened.
Hmm.
And and this is the story I often use, what happened to me at 15 happened. And I was
Yes.
victimized in that moment. But I can now look back and see where that cycle had perpetrated and repeated itself, like the skip in the record we talked about the last week.
Yes.
That that's that's what's happening to me. That's what's happening for me, not to me. Sorry.
Yes.
It's allowing me to close that loop, heal that cycle so it doesn't repeat itself. But it takes a lot of awareness. It takes a lot of
Hmm.
awareness. So the beautiful thing of being able to speak these stories that keep us stuck in that victim energy, in that fear energy, in that less than energy, and being around people who see you as more than what your story is telling you and your belief systems and that inner critic, that's been huge. And I know, you and I being the lead mentors, I think we're pretty great at helping people flip that script, and we don't say that flippantly. There's a process, right, to healing the stories and healing the past, and welcoming in all the emotions that most of us have repressed and suppressed,
Hmm.
and offering, because we're on the outside, just saying, hey, how does this feel? And that is something that I I couldn't have done on my own because I was stuck in my story. I was stuck in the shit and I couldn't see beyond the shit. All I could smell was shit. And I needed somebody to kind of take me just to the left or to the right of that pile. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Well, if I'm only looking through it through this lens, that's how I'm going to see it forever and ever. Having someone who loves you and wants you to come back to wholeness and not live in that cycle, and they just help to move you, shift you over, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't see it from this angle." Because of course you couldn't have. So
Hmm.
this is the gift of healing and community, where we get to be witnessed in our story, but we're also encouraged to heal through the process, feel, heal, and reveal the story and the strength and the message and magic behind it. Because there is a gift that you can put in your tool bag. Throw out all those shitty other beliefs, but hold on to that pearl, that
Hmm.
wisdom, and live by
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. I'm curious because I'm grateful to say I've been privileged enough that I have not been sexually assaulted in this lifetime. And I know that that's pretty common. I think in Canada, it's about one third of women have been sexually assaulted. And so in
Big
the spirit of the healing journey, I know for a lot of women that when they've been assaulted, that one of the outcomes of that is that you feel shame, that you
Yeah,
feel that you're not good enough.
yeah.
So I'm curious to your process of becoming a sexual assault survivor, to how does community help you thrive? Like walk me through how that feels in your body and how you heal so that people can imagine a different way of being.
That's a big, I just see this very big picture, and I
Hmm.
can only speak for myself. But when I began this journey, I just kept saying to her, Jennifer, get over it. It happened
Hmm.
30 years ago. Like, what are
Hmm.
you still on about? Like, but I'd never talked about it. I'd never
Hmm.
spoken about it. It just kept like, no, that just it's in the past. You got to get through it.
Hmm.
Um,
Just get over it.
just get over it. It happened 30 years ago. Like, what's your problem?
Hmm.
Right. And that's how I would talk to myself.
Hmm.
And when I really began stepping into this work and trauma especially. I mean, it's one thing to be able to love yourself, and I'm all about like I self-love, absolutely. But I had to get through all of the muck and the mire
Hmm.
that that event in my life, along with others,
Hmm.
changed who I was as a person.
Hmm.
It made me behave differently than who I really was.
Hmm.
So the shame cycle became the repetitive that, oh, you are a slut, you're a whore, you drink too much, like all of the things that were associated in my coping. Because,
Hmm.
like I said, I didn't have anybody to talk to. Um, I was ashamed that it had happened because, as most people say, well, you drank.
Hmm.
Well, you drank, so it's your fault.
The victim blaming element.
And that was back in the 80s. That was absolutely what happened.
Yeah.
Boys were never looked at being the perpetrators. It was the woman or the girl who drank too much, dressed promiscuously, flirted, like
Hmm.
whatever it
He was
was.
asking for it. Yeah.
So the first step of healing is really being able to be around people that can hold you in that pain and that grief.
Hmm.
Um, and I was able to find that through other
Hmm.
women's groups, and that was hugely freeing. And somatically for me, this I found hugely releasing. And I'm not sure if this would be for everybody, but our minds are super, super computers.
Hmm.
I literally put myself and my mind back to that night
Hmm.
when I froze. I couldn't move. Beyond the fact that I had passed out and was not fully coherent. But I didn't understand what was happening. I had no clue. I'd never been intimate and I had no clue what was happening to me. So I was
Mm,
just like, oh, he's hugging me or I didn't know what, I just
mhm,
didn't know. But I put myself back as that 15-year-old child and I fought.
mm.
I fought. I laid in
Really?
my bed and I imagined it and I fought and I kicked. So all of that energy that wanted the fight and the flight, not the freeze, fight
Mm,
and flight, I allowed to move through me. And I cried and I screamed and I yelled. And I did that twice. And then I just felt my body, like everything that I've been holding, finally was released. And then I could hold myself and say, you're safe now. But that
mm,
charge, that energy, that skip, that skip in the record was in my body and it kept playing, even though I knew, like, why am I doing this? I know I'm not safe when I do this. If I have too much wine at the bar, I know I'm
mhm,
not safe, but I keep doing it because it's all I knew.
mhm, mm,
So reenacting, and I was able to do that for myself.
mhm,
Not everybody, that for a lot of people would be re-traumatizing. I was able to hold myself through that. And I
mhm,
journaled a lot and I cried and I played music that allowed the tears. So it was for me a very cathartic thing. So this is not a hey, do this, but if you were never allowed and you never really felt seen even by yourself in that,
mhm,
reach out to me, reach out to a rape group, reach out to somebody because this is stored and it can be cleared. It can be cleared. And this is the beautiful thing about healing trauma. It doesn't
mhm,
have to be the way it always has been
mhm, mhm. To feel safe enough.
to feel safer. And
Mhm.
now I can talk about this and there's no tears. There's no energy in my body that I feel like I'm going to be sick. There's like I'm clear. But now
Yay.
my story, message, and magic is hopefully going to help somebody else. So
Mhm,
this is the beautiful thing of community. Is
mhm,
coming together, witnessing one another, allowing ourselves to be in the discomfort of the unknown, because
mhm,
that's where the magic is. It's in the unknown.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful,
So,
Jennifer. Thank you
yeah,
so much. What a
thank
powerful
you.
conversation. And we hope
I'm
that this
very
was of
blessed.
value to
Very
our
blessed.
audience. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See you next week. Mwah.
Love your vibe.